Wer rettet die Welt? Der Ö1 Festival Podcast zur Klima Biennale Wien.
Welcome to the second episode of the Ö1 Festival podcast on the Vienna Klima Biennale. Since April the 5th, the Climate Art Festival has been inviting people to engage with the social impact of climate change and to search for ways towards a sustainable, livable future by examining the potential of art, design, architecture and science in relation to these issues. One of the festival's central exhibitions can be seen at the Biennale Centre in the Kunsthaus Wien. In Into the Woods, as the title suggests, 16 artists have dedicated themselves to the forest ecosystem. The project was scientifically supported by the Institute for Social Ecology and the Institute for Forest Ecology at the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna. The exhibition was curated by Sophie Hasslinger.
It's an exhibition that deals with this complex, sensitive ecosystem that's so important for the stability and health of our planet. The artists take a global view of this topic and look at the threats to the forests. On the one hand, of course, through human activity, through global warming, and on the other hand, they look at the collective activities of the ecosystem. How do these processes work? Some of which are visible, some of which are not. What is happening here? What symbiotic connections are there? And what's going on under the forest floor?
What at first glance appears to be a topic characterized primarily by ecological aspects very quickly proves to be highly controversial. The forest in Into the Woods is a political issue. It becomes a symbol of resistance and tenacity on the path to liberation. The economic aspects of the ecosystem are just as much in focus as scientific findings on its amazing functioning. In addition to the artistic aspect, the documentary character of the works is often striking. This is also the case with Oliver Ressler's work, The Path is Never the Same. The video installation by the artist focuses on one of Germany's last primeval forests, the Hambacher Forest in North Rhine-Westphalia, a symbol of the climate movement protected by activists from destruction by the Tagebau Hambach, the brown coal mine of Europe. Instead of relying on loud, garish images of protest, Ressler lets the forest speak and its actual inhabitants, who have made themselves at home in the trees and have entered into a long-term coexistence with it.
Hambacher Forst has become a kind of synonym for feasible resistance. It's also practically in the immediate vicinity of the largest coal mine in the European Union, where lignite, the most climate-damaging form of fossil fuel, has been mined for decades, and Hambacher Forst has been gradually reduced in size. This coal mining and the occupation, together with many other activist actions, led to this important stop to lignite mining in Germany, which unfortunately came far too late. Now that lignite mining activities are continuing, this occupation is also taking place, and many are actually focusing on two forms of self-organisation. One is the life of non-hierarchically organised activists in the forest, in tree houses, who organise themselves in barrios, various residential communities. And the second is that it also focuses practically on the forest as a form of self-organised system. And these two forms are intertwined in the film.
The forest is a resistance cell that serves as a role model for people who embrace its rhythm, tenacity and resilience. Ashes to Ashes is not only the name of David Bowie's global hit, but also the name of a wall installation by artist G.V. Lee, a dystopian scenario that refers to an area in Tuscany devastated by forest fires. G.V. Lee visits the region destroyed by flames during a scholarship stay at the Florentine House of Artists, a seemingly apocalyptic, gloomy place covered in ash. But this ground carries a special power. G.V. Lee.
The fascinating thing and the main inspiration for my work was that after a forest fire, Mother Earth is actually at her most fertile because everything is cancelled and reset. And I found that really fascinating, that despite our mistakes, nature actually has such a healing power within it, such a regenerative power. Then, of course, you realize where the phoenix from the ashes comes from. In Chinese, there's also the fire, especially when you think of the end. But there's actually still potential for new life. And it's about that cycle, about hope, and actually about the regeneration of nature.
In the wall installation, Ashes to Ashes, the ashes of the forest fire are transformed into anthracite grey soaps that look like small shrines, the mausoleum of a forest that has been destroyed by human hands. This human intervention becomes very vividly visible in Diana Scherer's work Hyper-Rhizome Interwoven, an area of grass that will dry out in the course of the exhibition. The artist continues to weave the still-growing root system according to her imagination, an interplay between human being and nature to which Scherer links a central question.
And that's actually the big question. Is it possible to develop cooperation with nature, or is it simply exploitation and manipulation? I'm asking the question. I can't answer it. I'll leave that to you and to science.
Und an die Wissenschaft.
In addition to the artworks briefly described, there is so much more to see in Into the Woods. Among others, a moss helmet by Markus Jeschaunig in the inner courtyard of the Kunsthaus, which invites visitors to linger in the middle of the city. Drawings reminiscent of botanical panels by Abel Rodriguez, who uses them to pass on the knowledge of his indigenous Colombian Noña community. The installation Unworlding by Anke Benera and Arnold Estefan, in which wild animals can be observed during their encounter with a saltstone variant of the saliera in the forest. Footprints in the Valley, a work in which Alina Benjaminsen and Elias Kemayo show how ambivalent CO2 compensation through substitute actions such as planting trees is. Into the Woods shows a wealth of informative works of art that encourage contemplation and reflection, and in some places even carry a glimmer of hope. Into the Woods can be seen at the Kunsthaus Wien until August the 11th. You listen to
Wer rettet die Welt? Der Ö1 Festival Podcast zur Klima Biennale Wien.
Created by Uli Leitner and spoken by Rosie Waits, Julie McCarthy and Tom Midler.